You've been told that buying a home is the best way to build wealth, but what if renting is actually better for your finances? You've got things like lower upfront costs, not having to worry about maintenance, and being able to move when you need to. It seems perfect, but does that outweigh the benefits of owning? By the way, I'm Fred, I'm a mortgage broker, and I've been in the finance industry for over a decade. Let's take a look at the renting versus owning points and make the decision crystal clear for you. Could renting actually save you money and stress in 2025? Let's look at the numbers. Renting has always been seen as a temporary option, something that you do until you're ready to buy. But when you take a closer look at the costs, renting today isn't just about convenience. It might actually make more sense financially. Here's what renting offers upfront: flexibility and lower costs. Think about it. When you rent, there's no negotiating with sellers, no closing costs, no putting 20% down to get a mortgage, none of that. Instead, you just pay a security deposit, sign a lease, and move in. The smaller initial costs can free up tens of thousands of dollars you'd otherwise spend just to call yourself a homeowner. And it doesn't stop there. Renting means you're not tied down. If work takes you to a new city, or if you decide the neighborhood's not a right fit for you, you're not stuck waiting to sell the property and having to pay a bunch in commission costs. You pack up when your lease ends and you're out. Simple as that. But here's the thing. Society drills into us that buying is a smarter financial move. The American dream, right? Every ad, every TV show, every well-meaning family member seems to push the idea that owning a home is the golden ticket to wealth. And sure, owning can have benefits too, we'll get to that later, but not that no-brainer option that everyone makes it out to be. In reality, rushing into home ownership without considering all the costs, both upfront and ongoing, can actually hurt your finances in the long run. Let's bring some numbers into the conversation so we're not just talking generality. Take Austin, Texas, for example. It's a perfect snapshot of how renting can come out ahead. In 2025, renters are saving over $2,100 per month compared to home buyers. To put that into perspective, a two-bedroom starter home in Austin, Texas costs about $3,600 per month if you're buying. This includes your mortgage, taxes, and insurance. Meanwhile, renting the same exact property is only about $1,468 per month. That's a massive gap, and it's not just Austin. Similar trends are popping up in big cities across the US. To give you a more specific example, I found a house in East Austin that rents for $3,100 per month. If you were to try and buy it, your mortgage would be just under $6,500 per month. That same house is going to cost you $3,300 more per month to buy than to rent. And we haven't even talked about the maintenance costs. What seems like a minor home repair can sometimes end up costing you thousands. A roof leak, a busted HVAC system, or even plumbing issues, they all add up. Renters can somewhat sleep at night when the faucet breaks or the AC goes out because they don't have to worry about footing the bill. The landlord does that. Homeowners have to cover the cost and call contractors who will take their time and their money. It's not just a financial burden, it's a time suck. Flexibility is another thing that doesn't get enough credit. Renting means that you can test out new cities and neighborhoods without feeling locked into the property. This is especially important this year when many workers continue to relocate for better career opportunities or cost of living advantages. Let's talk about Florida for a second. A few key cities there, like Cape Coral and Naples, recently saw rent prices drop 6.3% in Cape Coral and 3.2% in Naples. That's not a decrease you see everywhere, but it's a clear opportunity for renters who are looking to save money while staying flexible. Even if rent does increase in some areas, you'll know ahead of time because it's written into the lease agreement. Compare that predictability to homeowners who deal with things like fluctuating property taxes, insurance premium, and random repairs that they may have to worry about. Then there's the budgeting factor. Renting allows for a much more predictable financial plan because you know exactly what you're getting into month by month. Your rent, utilities, maybe parking. There are no surprise expenses lurking in the background. The costs are straightforward, and sometimes that's all we can ask for. Nobody likes surprises, right? As a renter, you can budget and put money into a retirement account, into your savings, and hey, maybe ape into GameStop stock. But are all these savings enough to outweigh the long-term financial benefits of owning a home? It's clear that in some cities, renting is a smarter option right now. Between lower rent markets like Cape Coral and Dallas, not having to worry about unexpected maintenance costs, and financial flexibility, renting seems like the better option, right? Maybe. But home ownership has its own set of benefits, especially when it comes to stability and building long-term wealth. So, home ownership builds wealth, but is it worth the upfront costs? Plenty of people still see buying a home as the ultimate financial move. It's stable, it's yours, And as you pay off your mortgage, you are building equity. Equity can and has proven to be a huge financial advantage. I mean, look at the folks who bought their home for $13 and a bag of chips in 1978. Their homes are probably valued over $1 million right now and they still don't want to sell. Over time, as the value of home increases, that equity grows, turning your house into a major asset. For many people, it's kind of a forced savings plan because every mortgage payment you make brings you closer to owning your property outright. Plus, if you ever decide to sell or even borrow against the equity, you can leverage that value for other investments or emergencies. On top of that, there are some serious tax advantages to owning a home. Homeowners who itemize their deductions can lower the taxable income by deducting property taxes and mortgage interest. One thing to note though is that the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 did limit these benefits. Mortgage interest rates deductions are capped at $750,000 of mortgage debt for joint filers, and state and local tax deductions just got bumped up to $40,000 per year thanks to the BBB, the Big Beautiful Bill. While only about 8.5% of taxpayers benefited from the mortgage interest rate deduction in 2022, it can still make a noticeable difference for those who qualify. And for many buyers, the thought of investing in something that they own combined with these tax perks makes homeownership feels like the right thing for them to do financially. But here's the flip side. Owning a home comes with what seems like sky-high upfront costs for many. First, there's a down payment, which usually runs anywhere from 3% to 20% of the home price. I'm going to use my hometown, Austin, Texas, as an example, where the median home price in June of 2025 hovered around $586,000. Putting 20% down would mean coughing up roughly $117,000 before you even start considering other costs like closing costs, inspections, and moving expenses. If you're married, add that in with new furniture that your spouse decides to buy. That seems like a ton of money that's being locked up in a single asset. And it doesn't stop there. Owning a home means you're responsible for everything, like repairs, maintenance, insurance, and my favorite, property taxes. I'm kidding, I hate property taxes. Unlike renters who can simply call a landlord when something breaks, homeowners have to deal with it themselves. The hassle of having to set up the appointments and of course the cost. Even minor fixes like plumbing leaks or electrical issues can add up fast. Bigger issues like a new HVAC system or a new roof can really dent your budget. When people talk about owning a home, they usually forget how much of the cost is tied up in mortgage interest. For years, interest rates were pretty low, but if you look at mortgage rates between 2023 to now, they've been as low as 6% and as high as 8%. While that's still lower than the double-digit rates from the 1980s, it's still a huge jump compared to just a few years ago. Also, homes used to cost like $80,000 back then. Now, if you're comparing costs, the financial challenge of homeownership becomes really clear, especially when you break down the monthly payment. Using Austin as an example again, monthly costs for owning a starter home, including the mortgage, property taxes, and insurance, and some average maintenance, come in at right around $3,600 per month. Compare that to renting a similar property, which costs about $1,470 per month. The gap is staggering. Even though homeowners build equity, it's hard to ignore how much extra cash is tied up in those monthly expenses. The thing is, not everyone in the market sees homeownership the same way. For some, it's about long-term investment. They're in it for the equity, the tax benefits, and the stability. Buying gives you a lot more control. No more worrying about lease terms or getting evicted if a landlord decides to sell. This actually happened to my wife and I when our son was about 8 months old, which sucked. Having to worry about moving with a little one is a bit challenging, but for others, the risks of buying are daunting. Property values can go up or down, and if prices drop while you're still paying off your mortgage, you might find yourself stuck, unable to sell, unable to refinance, and you're gonna have to take a huge loss if you do sell. Not to mention that some homeowners find out too late that having a place to call their own ends up coming with more stress than they anticipated. So, does owning pay off, or is it just a costly burden? The answer depends on your goal. If you're financially prepared to take on the extra costs and hold on to the property long enough to make equity building worthwhile, buying is absolutely worth it. I would say 3 to 5 years is a sweet spot, if not longer. If you plan to stay in the house for longer than that, even better. But if the thought of hefty upfront expenses and unpredictable maintenance feels overwhelming, it might not be the best move. At least not yet. Now the real question is, how do you decide what's right for your life, renting or buying? Let's break it down. Renting or buying a home in 2025 really comes down to two things: your financial goals and what's happening in your local market. Sure, owning a home can build equity and offer long-term stability, but the numbers don't always make sense in every situation. Again, in cities like Austin, Texas, renters are saving over $2,000 per month compared to buyers. That's not pocket change. So before deciding, take a hard look at your budget. Research tools like rent versus buy calculators and local market reports can give you a clearer picture, and the key is to find out what works best for you. Stop listening to others. Now, if you are a first-time home buyer and you still have questions about how it all works, this video is perfect for you.